Abortion is very important to me. I mean, I don't know where I would be in my life right now if I hadn't had the abortions that I had, multiple abortions too, not to brag.
Hello there, friend.
Hello.
What's your name?
My name is Sanchez. I am queer, transgender, non-binary, and pansexual, although sometimes I say bisexual.
I identify as either queer or pans.
Queer loudmouth.
I identify as David Schmader, cocksmoker. I'm queer. For today, I'm queer. I'm usually just gay. I'm old enough. I'm like gay, I'm a gay.
David, is abortion important to you?
It's extremely important to me.
Why?
Freedom. I just prefer it.
I was blessed and privileged enough to actually go through the procedure myself, and having an abortion completely, it saved my life.
Ironically, I wouldn't be as good of a parent as I am now if I hadn't had access to abortion for the previous pregnancies that I wasn't prepared for.
I am someone who's had an abortion before. I feel very grateful that I was able to have an abortion. I would like to be able to continue to have abortions if I needed to in the future.
Although no partner of mine has had an abortion, it's been a potential outcome of a lot of my sexual encounters throughout my life and continues to be. More so than that, many people around me have had abortions, and their ability to make those choices for themselves is what allows them to live the kinds of lives that they live and to create the kind of culture and community that I live in. Without access to abortion, my community would look completely different.
Do you think that abortion is a queer issue?
I mean, abortion is a human rights issue. It's a queer issue just by, like inherently a queer issue just by being a human rights issue.
I mean, everything, by the way, is a queer issue. Queer folks are human beings, and we do everything that every other human being does, except for, maybe like enjoy scented candles or something. But overall, yes, abortion is a queer issue.
Queer people need abortions. Men need abortion, women need abortion, trans people need abortion, intersex people need abortion. Every kind of person needs access to an abortion. And also, communities need abortion.
The framing of abortion in a very binary way is not constructive for a lot of folks because it approaches abortion having already made a lot of assumptions about where someone is coming from.
There are a lot of different kinds of queer identities and a lot of different kinds of queer relationships, and many of them are vulnerable to unexpected pregnancies.
Why do you think it's important for queer people to talk about abortion?
Queer people know what it's like to be bullied, and this really feels like a mass, calling it bullying feels diminishing, but also it feels so true of just, I hate when people in power take it out against people with less power.
Nobody's supposed to be vocal about abortion, number one. Straight white women even aren't supposed to talk about it. If they're even not supposed to talk about it, trans people of color are certainly not supposed to talk about that. It's disruptive. It wants to maintain this like heteronormative binary. And because the stigma has been so huge and effective, to speak up as anything not that, as everybody else, is explosive, really, and fun. I'm gonna say it's fun, too. So much about this is fun, to be honest.
I think it's very dangerous to talk about abortion just in a vacuum, as like a thing that you choose to do or not do. The only generative way to talk about abortion is to situate that into a larger context of, do we have agency over our lives as a whole? Are we able to live our lives in these human bodies with dignity and with respect and with support and with the ability to create the families of our dreams? I think that's actually the more important thing behind just abortion itself.
How is the struggle for queer liberation connected to the struggle for reproductive freedom?
Oh, fuck. I guess it's extremely similar in the sense that it's like just the fight to exist and to need to do what you need to do for your body and for like your emotional health and physical health. I never thought about that before.
It is also like fighting for your right for pleasure, which gays will do forever. I love sex. I want the women in my life to have as much sex as they want. I want the straight guys to get their rocks off too and not be dicks about what happens with the jizz, because the crispy Whitesnake shirt under your bed tells a different story of your love for like the foundation of life.
So the title of this video is Abortion is for Everyone. Does that resonate with you?
Yes. Yes, because one of the abortions I had, at the time was identifying as a cis woman. And when I realized that I wasn't, and I came out as the trans non-binary perfection that I am now, I realized how differently I was treated because I had my second abortion when I was trans and how much I was no longer included in this support system I had previously when people thought I was a woman. And that was so much harder emotionally because I didn't have the same people, being like, yeah, you go, girl. I understand why feminism always wants to find this sisterhood, but, I wish that people would think about their privileges in those situations and talk about reproductive health care in a neutral way. And it doesn't diminish or erase the cis women that are involved to do that.
And I think when we talk about having this movement be inclusive of queer folks, I think it's really important specifically to talk about it being inclusive of queer, trans people of color, because there are a lot of nuances and complexities from our cultures of origin. And I think when a conversation is so politicized in a binary way, there isn't room for us to show up as all these different parts of ourselves.
One of the matriarchs of my family told me about her experience having an abortion, and it was years and years ago, and as she was being put under, she remembers hearing the doctor say, oh, well, black girls just use this, and they use it as birth control. And the shame around the system itself forced her, that just doubled down on her experience. She already had that narrative. She already had that kind of thought process going on, and before she went under a life-changing surgery, she heard from the person who was actually administering the procedure. She was just another statistic. It's like, we aren't the only ones doing it. We're just the only ones being stigmatized by it, or more stigmatized by it.
What does liberation mean to you?
Liberation is a safe house, is safety on the street, is joy, is pleasure without punishment.
Liberation right now feels impossible. So I guess liberation is if they made a Disney World for just black people. I honestly actually can't. Liberation isn't shit. Am I allowed to say that? I don't have any other words on it. I feel like liberation is a thing that's always going to be held right out of my grasp. So.
Liberation for me means freedom from someone else's control, and it also means freedom from systemic or institutional oppression. And those things are afforded to a lot of people in the world today, but they are not afforded to a lot of others. And the pursuit of that kind of liberty is very human and very just pursuit. And I think that it is a human right.
Liberation means, I don't know. I can't picture what that would look like. I don't know. I'm overwhelmed because nobody's ever asked me that question. You don't get asked what do you need? What do you want? What does freedom look like for you? I don't know. I can't, I know what I want. I don't know if it's possible that I'll see it. But I hope my kid does.